We're live now.
Wonderful.
You can
Hi,
start.
everybody. Awesome. Hi, everybody. I'm Kyle Ellicott, your host for another episode of VCTV. Excited to have you back here on a Friday, our capstone episode as we build up every day during each week leading up to today's episode. We bring investors from around the world to share with you about everything that's happening. Nothing specific today, no topic other than just fundraising. What's happening in the world in different regions? What are investors seeing? How are they thinking about things differently or not? Where are things going? Where are they not as we enter not just quarter three, but also the second half of 2020? We've had a very interesting, some highs, some lows, first half of 2020 when it comes to the fundraising landscape. We've talked a lot about that around specific industries, whether that was earlier in the week around AR and VR, entertainment and gaming that have seen surging amounts of capital and also usage, to then artificial intelligence and data, along with the industry 4.0 or robotics, supply chains, logistics. Again, areas that have seen a lot of capital investment and attractiveness in times when they may not have otherwise. And so here we're coming today to not just talk about all that, but everyone's specialties. And again, what's about to happen come this second half of the year that you need to know as investors of what's going on in the world, trends, opportunities, and where to place your money. As entrepreneurs, guess what? You're coming in the last 6 months of the year. This is prime time if you're fundraising. And if you haven't been, get going now. And we're going to share with you what you need to know to be successful or what to do and plan for if things don't go the right way over the next 6 months. All right, it's the truth. Let's get real about it and let's dive in. But before we do, we want to give a big thank you to you, our audience, for tuning in. Investors, entrepreneurs, everybody in between the like. We appreciate you joining. If you're an investor and you'd like to join us, reach out. Myself, Maria, the entire LATOKEN team here at VCTV, always open DMs on all social medias. Let us know how you would like to participate, whether it be on a panel like today, opening up your mind, or on a particular subject. If you're an entrepreneur, guess what? We have a spot for you, whether it's on today's show, like Zolko over here, who will be pitching us shortly, or if you'd like to join our Startups Leader Club and actually have a chance to share some of your insights as a first, second, or multi-time entrepreneur and give back to the community that also helped you get to where you are as well. Very important. If you like what you hear, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up. We've got a great episode ahead. Quick shout out to Maria and to the entire LATOKEN team for helping bring VCTV possible into your screen everywhere in the world and device that you may be watching. Now, let's dive in. Zolko, we're going to come to you in the second half of the show, as I mentioned, but welcome to the show. First and foremost, good friend, one of the best deep tech experts I know out there, a lover of the space and stars, to the blockchains and to the cryptos in between. Irina, welcome back to the show. A little intro and background on yourself.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be back. You guys are definitely highlight of my week. I just love the conversations we have here, and I love that we have time to do that too. My name is Irina Litchfield, crypto superwoman. I am president of Lumeria. It's a platform for space that concentrates on making sure that it is established as an asset class. I'm a founder of Blockchain Cubed. It's financial technology consulting firm. I advise to a number of companies. ProChain Capital, which is a hedge fund, crypto hedge fund, space fund, early stage VC, and a global securities exchange, which is, global securities exchange, and of course, Equa, which is an organizational platform. I love what I do, and I love you. I love my freedom. Value my freedom.
We're one of the things you'll find here on VCTV with all of our guests is that we're not just investors in one thing, we're invested in many areas. It's a big thing here for us, and we're very diverse, but we're very focused on those types of areas of diversity. We've got a lot of specialties. So someone like Irina, for instance, may be playing roles in many different areas, as William and Gary will share as well, but they're very specialized. this is something to pay attention to if you're talking to investors, understanding what else they're doing out there and where else they can add value. Feel free to ask those questions. We'll come back to that in just a moment. William, welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure to have you. It's been a few minutes. Good to have you. A little intro background for yourself as well.
Hi, Carl. Thanks again for inviting me to the event. Okay, so just a brief background on myself. I'm in the financial services, and we have created funds and we invested funds, and we are very active in corporate finance as well. We have listed companies in the London Stock Exchange and Australia, Malaysia, Hong Kong, and Singapore. Okay, I just drove 6.5 hours today. Brought my family for a short trip north of Malaysia. So a bit tired, but yet when I see Irina and Zachko talking just now, I feel that, oh, okay, it's coming back. Okay, of course, Gary, we're supposed to speak, but haven't got a chance. Okay, yeah, so the Asia is recovering, and Malaysia, I have a lot of conversation with investors from the north of Malaysia for the last 3 days. Okay, so everybody is back to investment mode. Okay, so I basically introduced a few deals that are involved, and actually two of them actually committed some capital over the few meetings the last 2 days. Yeah, I'll share with you later on. Yep, thank you.
Awesome. Well, William, great to hear, and thank you for driving 6 hours just to be on VCTV today. I know it was a journey, but thank you. All jokes aside, really do appreciate you joining today. I know it's been a long week for everybody, but it's going to be a fun episode here today. And last but not least, the AI master of masters, the Yoda of AI, if you will, Gary Fowler. Welcome back to the show, my friend. I feel like I've seen you almost every day this week.
Not worthy. Thank you. Yeah, I know. I feel like this is a regular thing. I love it. You know, I kind of miss it if I don't see you.
I know. It's definitely not a day of the week. That's how we can tell if it's the weekend. We don't see each other. It's the weekend.
You can give me a call if you want. It's no problem.
Deal. Perfect. Well, my friend, a little intro background for those few people out there who don't know you.
Yeah. So my name's Gary Fowler, and I've been doing startups for 35 years. I've done 15 companies. My largest exit is Click Software as the original member of the management team. It was sold to Salesforce for a little over $1 billion in August of last year. I'm primarily interested in artificial intelligence. I created Eva. I was a co-founder of Eva, one of the top 10 AI companies. I started 4 years ago, HR tech. I've raised hundreds of millions of dollars. I've started a $100 million fund. I started the top accelerator in Russia. The first accelerator in Russia, Skolkovo Startup Academy. I co-founded it. The largest corporate private accelerator. I also co-founded that. So I've been involved in lots of different companies. I started the first e-commerce consulting company, et cetera. So I'm passionate about startups, passionate about getting shit done. By the way, my company's called GSD Venture Studios, which is Get Shit Done Venture Studios. Because guess what? That's what it's all about.
That is what it's all about. And it's Friday, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to get shit done today. We're going to talk a lot more about all of what you guys just did in your introductions. And one of the things I want to kick off with, William, you kind of started, and I'm going to come to you first, is we're rounding out the second half of the year, or rounding into, I should say, right? We're about a month into Q3, which is crazy to think at this point, but we are. And we've got about 5 months left in the year, which means we're in that second half, that last push, that last drive traditionally that has been built for fundraising, right? July is a little weak. August is a little bit here and there. And then all of a sudden it's the last few months sprint to the end of the year before the holidays. But now things may be looking a little different. So we'd love to come to you and hear your thoughts on where are we and what's the outlook for the second half of this year here in 2020.
Yeah, I think for those, because of COVID-19, I think we have probably have a 6 months holiday. Okay, some are okay. So we are stuck at home. Okay, in 4 months. Okay, and looking at screens like this. Okay, and now for the last 24 days, or actually from the third week of June, everybody seems to be trying to get on to business. Okay, because everybody has lost half a year. Everyone want to get into business, and let's cut the chase and let's stop business. Okay, for investors, they need to invest their money. For fund manager, for asset manager, right? They have to deploy capital. Otherwise, the investors say, "Hey, I'll call back my money." Okay, and for entrepreneurs, it's quite tough to raise money just through Zoom or through online meeting. So everybody is trying to play catch up now. Okay, that's why although I'm having holiday in Penang, but I have 6 meetings average per day for the last 2 days. Okay, so of course my wife wasn't really happy. Okay, but it's like everybody is trying to catch up. Okay, and it's good because a lot of investor hasn't deployed the money, so they will be looking for good solid deals. Okay, so if you are at the right time, okay, at the right place, meeting the right people, you'll get money fast enough. Okay, so that's what I've been feeling. And at this moment, we are running 7 deals. Okay, so we are raising funds for some of them are our own companies, and some of them are for our clients and also partners. Okay, so everybody is actually back to business. Okay, at least from Malaysia side. And we just can't wait for Malaysia, Singapore to open the borders, because a lot of capital actually comes through between Singapore and Malaysia. Okay, and of course Hong Kong. So hopefully in a month's time we can actually start traveling. All right, so I think at this moment is still the face-to-face works. Okay, but we hope that in coming months or years that we can raise money just through online virtual meetings. Right.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and something I think we've discussed pretty much all week, but for the past couple of weeks here on VCTV, is this possibility of a real future. And it's funny because you look back at the previous years, and raising capital or really just having meetings in this environment were one-off. But we're going to probably hear about this from Zalto later today, but this changes the game, right? If you can have both in-person and virtual, or all virtual meetings as a founder, that exponential number of investors you can talk to really goes up very quickly. But the process also gets a little longer. It gets a little bit more intensive of how many meetings you may have, and sitting in front of a computer for a long time is tough, and it's just a different experience. But I think you're right. This is something we may see as a new normal, if you will, of you go and you have your in-person meetings, you also have virtual meetings, or you have virtual meetings first, and then you go to your in-person meetings. There's a lot that this will play a bigger role into, I think, as well, and throw crowdfunding into it, and you've got a whole nother aspect as well, but we'll table that. So Gary, I want to come to you. I mean, what are you seeing? You're putting together $100 million fund, and you've talked about it a few times here on the episode, but you've also raised capital. You're raising capital now. It's like, what are you seeing on both sides as an investor who's deploying and trying to raise capital right now? What do you see the second half looking like?
Well, I mean, the situation is, as I've said before, this is really the opportunity of a lifetime, because we do have mediums like Zoom to be able to bring us closer together and to connect the world together. And that truly had not been in place 6 months ago. It was not deployed the way it is today. As I've said before, there were 30 million active users of Zoom before the pandemic, and there are 300 million active daily users today. It's crazy. It's amazing. So we have really gone through this digital transformation. The companies that are smart are going to take advantage of it, because the secret is you can get the VCs a lot easier than you could before. If the smart ones are going to use it wisely, it won't last forever, but it is to be able to use wisely. And the startups that are out there that have the fundamentals correct. When I say fundamentals, thing like, what kind of team do you have? Are they a proven team? Have they had success? Do they have revenue? What kind of revenue, and what does the future look like? So if you have those things, the probability of getting funded is very, very, very high. So on one side of it, you got about a third of the VCs, a third of the money out there is saying that they put it on the table, they're holding off, they're only invested in a portfolio. But I believe based on, 10 calls every week just on conferences and another 9 to 15 VC calls and partner calls, there's a credible opportunity because guess what? Like William was saying, the money, they're mandated to spend the money, or maybe it was Irina. They're mandated to spend the money, and if they don't, they'll claw it back. So you have an opportunity because guess what? They need to see really cool deals. Use the medium. So in terms of us, in terms of raising money, we're creating a diversity fund. I have one of the board members of the NAACP is on the board of advisors of my company. I've been doing this way before BLM. This is, a project of mine for a long time because I believe that, opportunities are not evenly spread out. And what we want to do is to be able to help. So we're creating a fund around that, an AI fund around diversity. So I think it's a great opportunity if you're smart. If you sit on your hands and you try doing it the old way, by the way, William, in the States, it's locked down, right? It's not like it is in Malaysia. So in Silicon Valley, people just don't want to have, they don't want to meet. It's like Russian roulette. So what do? You do the Zoom meetings. And what you're doing is you're building momentum for the time that you can have those in-person meetings. Use it to connect because you'll never have this again. It's an extremely, extremely efficient way to be able to get the people that want to invest in your fund and to get the startups where you want to deploy. Extremely efficient. But, it'll happen. And my prediction is in the next 2 months, 3 months, people are smarten up and they'll understand the power of being able to go online with Zoom, the power of being able to get to those connections quickly.
And absolutely, and I'll just touch on a few points of that before I get to Arena, because this is great perspectives from all three of you for sure. And one, it takes different times for everybody. So founders that are listening, Gary is putting out good information there, but it's okay if you haven't figured this out yet and haven't found the best way to optimize for it because you're worried about your business. And this is a new way of doing business. So it's okay. But to Gary's point, get on it. If you are fundraising and you've got those things that he's mentioned, so you've got the team, you've got the revenues, and you've started to figure out your navigation plans for the next 2 years, go. Don't waste any more time. But it's okay if you haven't yet. Just one piece of note. And second, on the Bay Area. So yes, completely agree with Gary. Being here in the Bay Area, there's not any in-person meetings happening from most of the investors we've had on the show here on VCTV that I'm taking or that other investors we speak with are taking. Most of the pitches I've received, to Gary's point, have been just like this, been a cold outreach, have been an in-person or warm introduction. And guess what? It's a meeting through Zoom or some other kind of video conferencing. And it's okay. It's one thing you have to realize as well is it takes more than just one meeting. It always has. So don't get skewed and think that was the way it was. It's always taken more than one meeting. Now it just takes more frequency. There's going to be a lot more questions around diligence. There's going to be a lot more questions in general. Get to know us, because guess what? Things continue like this, we're stuck together for a long time. And if with any type of investor, and William, everyone's laughing, it's true. As with any investor and founder relationship, this is a long-term engagement. We're all not in it for the short term. So take this time, to Gary's point, and also to William's, get to know us, ask questions, see how we can add additional value beyond just a check. I can't stress that enough. As being a founder and an investor, cannot stress that enough to ask those types of questions. But to Gary's point, again, here in the Bay Area and San Francisco in general, yes, people are not taking in-person meetings. They're taking more of these types of calls, but they are active. They have mandates to deploy before the end of the year. They're looking for opportunities, which we're going to get to in just a moment on where, but they are active. The first 6 months, the first half of the year, it was about portfolio security, because guess what? That's what you do as an investor. And for founders, you should take that as a very, very, very good sign. If your investor who you've been talking to delayed a little bit and now is back, and the reason they delayed because they took time to invest in their portfolio, make sure they were surviving, they had cash, they helped navigate, take as many meetings with that damn investor as you can. That is someone who will be with you through thick and thin, and that's what you want. Also ask questions as to what did they do? How did they help? Learn. I can't stress it enough. I'll stop. That's my perspective from the Bay Area to add to what William said around Asia, and then Gary said as well. But also I want to turn to Irina. Irina, I know you're in Texas, but you're also here in the Bay Area. You're all over the place. So I'll let you go. And I want to hear your thoughts on the second half. Is you're on the angel side, you're on the VC side, you're on the hedge side, you're on the private public market side, you're on all of it. So you give us the best perspective. What are you seeing happen in the second half of the year?
Yeah, I agree with William and Gary. You know, we are in Texas. What's happening is basically we kind of, you know, we are taking meetings. So it's kind of closer to what William described. But unfortunately, Texas does not have as many VCs as we would like to have. And up until now, a lot of conversations have been basically just that for companies, just conversations. I have seen a lot of bridge loans happening. So that's kind of really, really active that happens right now for the companies. I think that's very common, bridge loans. However, I do see that in the last couple of weeks, we start seeing more deployment. And for the reasons that you guys mentioned, VCs have to deploy. You cannot sit on your hands for too long. And I think that the most important thing that really empowers me is that because we've been so disconnected personally, you know, the VCs kind of already executed their personal relationships, right? That personal touch that they required before in order to be able to feel comfortable, to have conversations. And so now entrepreneurs have really great opportunity to really cold call, as long as the entrepreneur does their research and they understand the VC that they're talking about, they understand the investment thesis, and they understand that, you know, it fits their investors' investment thesis. Actually, you can now get conversations, and you can get conversations not just with associates, but directly with fund managers, which is amazing. It is unheard of before, right? So before you had to meet somebody, had to introduce you to somebody. There was like this whole chain of schmoozing that you had to go through. And now schmoozing is gone. Now there's something good about schmoozing, you know, but it's just not available anymore. And the deal flow must go on. And so I think that's really empowering. And another thing that I'm seeing too is that investors are now starting to see that, okay, this company have done what it takes to survive last 6 months through this turbulence, through these unknown times, and they're still here. I want to get a piece of it. I don't care. I don't know this person. I don't care if they don't come from my circle and they are unknown. I don't care that they're in a different state. But I like them. I want them because they have that greed. They have that greed. They have that dedication. And I think that that's really empowering too. So as an entrepreneur, don't give up. Do what it takes. Remember that it is powerful that you're surviving, and it is hard because you probably have to fire some people, you have to probably make some serious sacrifices, but remember your goal is to give life to your company. And so if you're staying alive, you're showing to the investors now and further in the future, every single month you dedicate that you're here. And especially if you have traction and your traction is growing, like I'm seeing a lot, right? It's then you then are doing amazing job. So reach out, forget about the rules of schmoozing, just reach out directly. And you know, I personally have really enjoyed being able to just connect with people directly. Very important roles. I mean, people that before would be a dream to be able to talk to, they're just ready for a call, you know, they want to connect.
It's so true. And I see, Gary, you have unmuted, but I'll just say it's so true. I mean, no, never in a time, and I will say this again, sitting on both sides of that table, never in a time have you been able to get access to so many people at so many different levels. And at the same time, sitting with the investor hat, we've never had the chance to meet so many different people as well and hear so many different stories, learn about so many different industries. What you've seen, to Irina's point as well, is we've had some companies where they have come out, just randomly started during these last 6 months or slightly before and have become active, raised a significant amount of capital because they're focused in an area that we all see as something that's going to take off based on not just user habits now, but a trend that was going. So you're absolutely right. But Gary, go ahead. I see you unmuted, so continue.
The thing is, it's really interesting, Kyle. I've had CEOs of some of the largest corporations of the world Zoom with me in their homes, and their dogs are running behind them, barking, or kids. It's crazy. And they're a lot different than they are in the office because they're very steadfast and this is the way we do business. But when you catch them at home, it's a whole lot different, right? They're friendly. And so their wife is around, their kids are around, their dogs are around, that kind of thing. So it's a lot different situation. And I think that changes the dimension of the business because we're all in this thing together and it brings humanity back. And by the way, it's extremely efficient and effective, as I said, because we can meet, as Irina alluded to, all these people that we never would get a chance to get to. So using LinkedIn, and I've connected with more people in the last couple of months through LinkedIn because, you know, the other thing is they're a little lonely, I think. They don't want to be out of touch.
It's true. It's true. I mean, let's break it down for a second. It's so incredibly true. The humanization element of fundraising. Fundraising can be very exciting. It can be exhausting. It can be so incredibly exhausting. And it's even harder if you're running a company and having to raise capital. So for founders, guess what? We've all been there. We totally understand it. You're not alone in that exhaustion. But bringing that humanized element, I mean, to your point, Gary, we see, you know, such a different side of people in an exciting way, and it makes you feel like you're on the same page as someone. They're not higher or lower than you, that you're all in this together.
I had a CEO bring his dog. He wanted to show me his golden retriever, and he put the dog up, and he didn't have a virtual background. I'm looking at his dog, Duke, and I couldn't believe it. You know what I mean? Nobody in a million years would think a top 50 CEO would have the dog under his arm, like loving the dog up. It was crazy. But guess what? That brings humanity back and makes people a lot more open to wanting to do business.
And it brings a different level of the relationship in too, right? Again, it goes back, especially with fundraising, that's very important, right? Certain business relationships, there's definitely a very understood line. But when it comes to fundraising, I mean, again, this is a long-term journey. And, getting a chance to understand who those people are that are going to be investing with you alongside or into you and your company, it's great to know them well beyond, that piece of paper that they sign or in today's day, wire transfer. But nonetheless, it's just so good to know them. And it also brings another level of connection, with the loneliness point as well.
I want to know who you are, right? And so when you have these conversations, he brought his golden retriever and I brought my basset hound. And, we were comparing dog notes.
First and foremost, I'm jealous. Sorry, Irina. I'll just say this real quick. I am jealous that you brought your basset hound to that conversation, and we have not seen them on VCTV. We've seen other dogs.
Soon.
I'm just saying. Now go ahead, Irina, and then William. I got a question.
I'm gonna bring my Maltese puppy and the chicken next time.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. Little did you know, audience, VCTV is not just about investing. We're also about animals. We love them. We love them. Bring them on as guests. They're secondary stars that just love to shine, and they take over the stage. It's a beautiful thing. It's absolutely wonderful. Which we are going to do an episode on pets, by the way. So get ready. But William, to you, I want to talk a little bit about a thing that Irina mentioned a moment ago about investment rounds. So we've talked now about what the second half looks like. Capital has to be deployed, get ready, have as many conversations, but above all, it's going to be probably a little tougher than it has been usually. But when it comes to investment rounds, Irina brought up bridge, the term bridge. So bridge is usually a gap round or something to fill between your traditional rounds. Just a very simple explanation. I know there's others. Let's just leave it at that. What are you seeing happening at the early stages? And are you seeing more of these said bridge rounds as well as companies are starting to get or needing to fill those gaps between the kind of the tightness of what's going on?
Actually, at this moment, we were actually arranging a few bridge financing, okay, for more mature companies, okay. Unfortunately, mature companies do have more staff, more commitments. They occupy bigger office, bigger space, bigger warehouse, okay. So, and the banks are also tight, okay. So that's where we actually help them, okay, to bridge, okay, for 6 months to 3 to 6 months, okay. And this is important because if mature companies collapse, okay, usually the thousands of people will lose job, and that will affect their families. So at least 3 to 4 times people around them will get affected as well. Okay, so we are trying as best to help them as well. Of course, the difficulty of investors, they are a bit cautious. Okay, decision making are slow. But what Rina and Gary also mentioned, this is a time where you can approach people directly. Okay, I was at the event yesterday. So the CEO of that organization, who is involved in early stage funding, okay, owned by our government. Okay, so it's a government funded agency. They just launched a grant, okay, up to $500,000 US to support companies with IP. Okay, so I realized that I was connected with her on LinkedIn. So she was speaking on the stage. I was texting her on LinkedIn, say, hey, I just noticed that you're on the stage and we're connected and we never met in person, right? Because she just got appointed a month ago. Okay, so I said, if you're free, we can have a chat. And in fact, 1 hour later, we are having a half an hour chat, okay, to see how we can help the ecosystem in a startup area. Okay, so like Gary mentioned just now, LinkedIn, yes, I noticed that I have connected to probably another 2,000 people over the last 3 months, okay, all reaching out to each other, looking for opportunities, bridging capital, okay. In fact, for the last few months, investors are also reaching out to intermediaries and also entrepreneurs, not just entrepreneurs to investors. Okay, I think LinkedIn is very, very efficient and effective in a sense. And of course, social media platform like Facebook and Insta does help as well, and Twitter. Okay, I think the what Gary mentioned. So sometimes my daughter will run around me when I was having meeting, and then people will start getting the warm up and say, "Oh, that's your daughter." So I'll bring my daughter on my lap and say, "Oh, she's 5 years old." But then that broke all the ice between us, right? So straight away, it feels like we are more human, right? When we meet outside, it's always in a suit or in the very. You see, we are always trying to impress the other party when we meet the other person, right? But when you're at home and you're more relaxed, okay, when your dog or your daughter running around, your wife's scolding you from the background, right? But it makes us more human, like what Gary mentioned, okay, and that actually bridged the emotion as well, not just the capital, right?
Yeah, and now real quick before I come Gary and Irina, one thing I want to bring up. So social networks, we actually have another episode of this coming next week in VCTV. So shameless plug, but very true is, social networks. LinkedIn is one, but other social networks, investors are more open than you think, and also look towards those social networks to meet and hear about things. Not everybody, so don't get offended if you do reach out on a social medium and they don't respond or they push back. Sometimes that's a little bit more private of an area for them. But we've talked about this on other episodes, whether it be Instagram, Twitter, it may be Snapchat, it may be you name it. Investors are open. I mean, I've taken pitches on Twitter, and it's probably where you can find me the most if I'm not on LinkedIn. So, Tilo, who was on here before, takes them on every social media platform. Instagram, he's taken and done deals through. So it's a great point. It's not just the humanization, but it's also the openness and the opportunities of where people are looking and where people are finding these things. And also I'll bring up the teams. So you've got partners, you've got general partners, you've got principals, you've got venture partners, you've got associates, you've got the whole staff. All of these people are there and want to talk. All of them can be helpful, and they all will be helpful to you at some point. To William's point, just because you met someone or you haven't met them, reach out. That is the common theme. If you haven't picked up on it, audience, reach out.
I think as entrepreneur, you have to be a bit of thick face, because if you have not reached out to 100% for the last 2 months or 3 months, it means you're not an entrepreneur, right? Because you need to reach out. The more you reach out, the probability of hitting the jackpot is higher, right? But if you don't do anything, you're just watching the world goes by, right? Yeah,
it's so true. It's so true. And Gary, I want to come to you on that same question. I mean, what are you seeing around that pre-seed, seed kind of bridge round activity? Because I think that is very important in times of this situation, especially in the second half of the year. We see more of these usually as well, just because trying to bridge the gap. If you're a CPG company and fill, holiday inventory, if you're trying to make that last sprint and big customer set going into the next year. But what are you seeing? And also throwing accelerators in there. I mean, you run with GSD, you've started accelerators, you kind of run this venture studio. What are you seeing as activity around these areas right now?
Yeah. So as a matter of fact, on my other MacBook.
Oh, we just had you go on mute, buddy.
Well, my other, so I actually, one of my companies I co-founded right this second is doing a $2 million round as we speak, literally as we speak. So I don't, the bridge round stuff, to be honest with you, it's not really what we focus on. What I see is a lot of activity with investors that aren't doing the bridge round. They're actually investing at a pre-seed and seed level. I mean, that's very, very active. But I will say a caveat. I'm seeing a lot of activity from family offices. A lot.
Yes. There's a great article in Forbes about this actually a few months ago, but it's becoming recirculated that more family offices who we've had here as well are doing direct deals.
Yep, exactly. So what we're doing is we're doing that. And so I would say half the investors we look for, our portfolio companies, are from family offices. So I'm seeing that is really ticking up a lot. In terms of us, we're developing an online accelerator now, which is something we hadn't done before. And in terms of GSD, it was one of my other companies I founded, GVA, that did the physical accelerator. But we're looking at, how do we really capitalize in creating a end-to-end chain of opportunities? And so online acceleration seems very, very interesting, because they still want to go through the process, but now how do they get those experts in to do it? So that's one of the things that I think is really hot. But again, we're doing the same thing. We're talking about how do we maximize media? How do we maximize?
Absolutely.
Right? And think of this, the other thing, Kyle. I wanted to just bring this point up. Think how much money people are saving because they don't have to travel. And talk about carbon footprints. Think about how much less jet fuel. Look at it. There was in India, the Himalayas were seen for the first time in 50 years because there wasn't so much smog. I mean, the earth has gotten a chance to breathe again.
And so have we in some cases, minus the 24/7, 365 social media pitches that we're taking. But all jokes aside, I completely agree. And that also brings them
from your house, right? Or you're doing them from, some place that's comfortable. You can do a lot of different things. And honestly, on that side, I think the quality of life is really going up in some ways a whole lot because people seem to be a lot more at ease than they used to be, you know?
It's because it's Friday, Gary. We're all just happy to hang out with you right now. But no, all jokes aside, I agree. Again, you're right. That guard, to William's point as well, the guard has come down. People are breathing a little bit more, to what you're saying, and also just in general are a little bit more friendly and excited to hear from you. As Irina said, and Irina, I want to come to you just before we kick off with Zolto. So Zolto, my man, get ready. This is going to be your time to shine. We're going to shut up for about 5 minutes, let you talk. So Irina, what else are you seeing? I mean, you brought up bridge rounds. I want to come to kind of that M&A accelerator and bridge area. I mean, we talked pre-seed a little bit before the show, but also what that means in your areas of expertise, like space, and how seed just really doesn't exist because you're just such a big company. But what are you seeing activity-wise? And Zolto, make sure you get your presentation ready. We're going to kick you off in about 4 minutes. So what are you seeing in terms of bridge and M&A activity right now?
So I see for space industry, this is very exciting times right now. And I would say that COVID-19 expedited things quite a bit. And it's probably both what's happening with SpaceX kind of creates the natural momentum, and probably being locked up back at our houses, you know, based on our personal decisions. Of course, nobody locked us up, but you know, kind of, I think people are thinking about the future, and investors are thinking about, you know, what else is going to be different, right? Kind of a ability to say, okay, well, now our worlds changed so fast and so unpredictably. What else am I not looking at? What opportunities are there that I'm just blind to? And space naturally comes into the play. So we've seen enormous number of mergers and acquisitions. In fact, 40 companies have been, you know, acquired, which is a big deal. Now, it's a good and a bad thing, and I'll talk a lot about it during my keynote because that's important to understand. I'm not going to get into that. But as far as early stage deployment for space companies, we're actually seeing a lot of money being deployed, and most importantly, funds are raising money now, right? So early stage funds were not doing very well, and now money is just kind of coming at them from all over the place, you know, because limited partners are kind of seeing how, you know, how can they diversify. And I think that understanding space investment takes quite a bit of expertise. And so that's a great way for people to rely on experts who are running dedicated thesis to space investment of early stages. And so that gives me a lot of hope, you know, because I think that is really going to be that momentum we need to empower more VCs to start thinking, you know, I do want to also understand space, and I do also want to start a, you know, venture that is going to deploy specifically in space. And most importantly, because now we have deployment into early stage, so seed and A round, I believe that that's going to empower next stage VCs to say, okay, I do need to deploy in that. And, you know, that's for the space industry, these are definitely good times.
Mm-hmm. And you're right in terms of the funds. I mean, we've seen a number of funds raise large amounts of capital. I mean, we're talking north of $250 million in the past week. We had 500, 600, and a few others, millions of dollars, new funds that have been announced and are active and ready to deploy. And as we come to the second half of the show, one thing I do want to leave everybody with for just a half second here is, this is a time to fundraise. You know, we're painting a picture for everyone to make sure you understand what we're seeing as investors and also what we're thinking. But a lot of money has been raised in this first half of the year. We saw companies raising billions of dollars over in India. We saw companies here in the United States and in Europe, in Latin America, in Africa, in South America, everywhere, Australia, everywhere raising capital. Okay, so don't think that this is not the time. This is the time. And if you don't believe me, just do a quick Google search on fundraising and you'll see plenty of it as well. So with that being said, I want to get to the second half of our show. This is where things get really, really exciting. We're going to have Zolto come on here in just a moment, put a bunch of pressure on the poor guy to share his startup, but he's going to talk a little bit about what he has built as an entrepreneur with you and with all of us. And Zolto, the way this works, you've got 5 minutes. You'll have 5 minutes to present. Each of us will give you feedback afterwards and ask any questions. And then to our audience, where this gets even further exciting after Zolto is we're going to get to what advice we have as entrepreneurs, as investors for you. What industries we see that are starting to take off and where money's being placed for those investors that are also tuning in. And for all of you, what you need to know going forward in the next 5 to 6 months to be successful, whether you're raising your fund, you're raising funds, or you're sitting on the sidelines trying to figure out where to go. So with that, we begin the second half of this show. Here we go. Zolto, you ready, my man?
I believe yes. Can you see my deck?
Perfectly, and we can hear you
Okay,
loud and clear. So I'm going to start the clock. You got 5 minutes, all right?
Thank you very much. So hi, everybody. Again, I'm Zlatko from Rouster, where we do personal computers in the cloud. So if you ever brought a computer, you probably already know this feeling of frustration of paying pots of money for it. And knowing that it will be old, it will be slow, it will be even broken in just several years. And then you need to buy another one to reinstall your software, then to synchronize your data, your licenses, and so on, and so on, and so on. And it is funny because we live in an era where we basically put everything into the cloud. We have our files there, our files, our photos, our music, our television, even everything is in the cloud. But the personal computer is still not. And this is what Rouster is. Rouster is a full desktop computer, but entirely into the cloud. And because you still need a monitor and keyboard and a mouse, we make it available on any device you probably already have, like old computer, old laptop, old desktop, or even a TV or a smartphone. Or you can use it with our devices, which are ultra small and ultra light devices that you can just put in any monitor around you, and you're just good to go. So Rouster is really just the same as your current computer. There is no difference. But then you can upgrade it or downgrade it whenever you want, like indefinitely in time. You don't pay for it in the beginning. You only pay at the end of the month for what you use. It is more secure, you have support, and it is environmentally friendly. And this is the moment for Rouster, I believe. This is the moment because, well, you see, Rouster uses a modest amount of internet to operate correctly. And now internet is more and more available to the entire globe. And with upcoming 5G revolution, Rouster can become like the best service to be used over a 5G network. Also, we live in the shared economy era, when people really appreciate cloud services and streaming services. And this is exactly what Router is. It is streaming from the cloud service. Also, now we have all the technologies that we need. And 2 or 3 years ago, it wasn't possible. It just wasn't possible. And now Rouster is already validated on the market. So let's talk about the market. Rouster is kind of a virtual desktop infrastructure product. But with our technology on top of it, we make it fully able to go to the personal computers market, which is, crazy, scalable, worldwide market, who is very stable, and it's actually currently growing. And of course, there are some other companies there. You can spot names like Amazon, like Microsoft, like Google and NVIDIA and so on. But none of them have the full, complete solution to enter the personal computers market. Rouster is probably the only solution that is fully enabled to enter the personal computers market. And in fact, we don't consider those companies like direct competition, but more like potential partners. We're currently partnering with some of them, or exit strategy for our investors, of course. So what we did recently, we raised some funds to prove the concept. So we created 2 proof of concept products. We show it to a lot of users. We give it to a lot of users to just take it with them and use it. And we created a landing page down to the pay now button. And we run a short Google campaign on top of it. And the results were really impressive, actually. 90% of the test users actually liked it and wanted to buy it now. And we were able to sell with through the Google campaign at around 8.5 euros of personal acquisition cost. So now we want to make it happening. We want to grow it, and we want to achieve 1 million customers in the next 5 years. Our business model is conducted from 3 different activities. We have a subscription-based model with plans between 4 and 40 euro. We have pay-as-you-go service on top of it for users that are not really convinced or they're exceeding their plan. And we have devices sales on top of this. But in order to make it happen, we're raising money now. Our round is around 3 million euro. They're going to be spent on infrastructure creation, manufacturing devices, marketing, and stuff. And we believe that we're going to reach at least 20 times return of investment. So I'm not going to talk a lot about the team. I will leave this slide here, but they are like every other team. They're great. They really like the product. They really have a lot of experience, and they really can work together. So I believe this is the most important. And this is Roadshow, basically. Thank you very much.
Perfect timing. Literally, you finished right on. I mean, the timer just went off. I mean, you finished perfectly. So,
you know, I have one of those too.
smart, good man. I appreciate that. So, thank you very much, Zolto. Again, you know, it takes a lot to get up on a stage, virtual or physical, nonetheless, and share what you've built. So, thank you very much, first and foremost. You did a great job. I really appreciate that. Now, I want to make sure everyone gets a little bit of feedback or any questions in as well. So that's what this part of the show works. So Zarina, or apologies, Arena, let's start with you. First questions or any comments that you have for Zolto as well.
Yes, so you are raising 3 million euro right now. How much have you raised so far, and what is your current burn rate?
We raised 43,000 euro so far. This was the proof of concept phase. We spent them for this. And our current burning rate is around 0. We are actually out of money exactly at this moment. So we are operating, as people are saying, on muscles. But the initial burning rate will be around 20 or 30,000 per month for staff. Then we're going to grow, and then we're going to make infrastructure, manufacturing, and so on. I can actually share the financial model, which will be probably a little bit easier.
Just to clarify, you have raised so far 450,000 euro or 45,000 euro?
43,000 euro.
43,000 euro. Okay.
Gary.
Yep, absolutely. So I have a little bit of background in this because I did some work with Sun Microsystems in a thin client environment and Oracle and that kind of thing. So I'm trying to figure out why you think now would work better than then, right? Because it worked, and then, you know, why do you think the market's changed?
Yeah, well, basically the technology changed, in my opinion. The first thing is the internet. Now it is available. So people need this in order to use those kinds of computers. Then there is the so-called ultra-low latency streaming. This is something that came out of the gaming industry, and it is quite recent. So with this, we can now provide so good user experience that it is actually the same as just ordinary computer, conventional computer. So it is not a computer that you can use for some things, but it is too laggy for some other things, like watching YouTube or playing game. It is actually pretty suitable for gaming. I'm actually gaming on this when I have time, personally at home. So now we have the technology to make it able, and now this technology is not so expensive. So we can actually provide it on a price which is at least as good as a conventional computer, and probably it will be lower over the time.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I get that part of it. I mean, it's always about availability, right? So the situation is, what happens if I'm in a remote location, then I need to literally be able to access my data.
Yeah, and you need your, you have no connection at all. Yeah, so then you have no connection to this, but this is our next stage of development, where we can have small amount of computational power on the thin client. And then we can use some algorithms to synchronize your files that we expect that you will need. So all the time you will have some amount of power, and you have exactly the files that you will need when you're out of internet. This is for the second stage, but this is how it is going to work.
I mean, the thing is, if I was you, I would look at who could be your potential partners. So have you talked to Intel Capital? I mean, I would try to get feedback from people that are actually in this space that could be really interested about it, right? Or Dell Capital.
Intel Capital and Dell Capital, now we're actually currently trying to partner as much as possible with all the cloud providers out there, the big names. So this is what.
Which ones are you trying to?
Like Oracle and Paperspace and Microsoft and Amazon and so on. We're building on top of them currently.
Have you thought about like the 5G providers that could be interesting? Because now if you're doing that, if you had some type of a, you had your phone, you could actually connect, and 5G is like 10 times faster, right? So why don't you talk to Takeshi Suzuki at the Como Innovations? He's a CEO. It's the largest telecom company in Japan, and I happen to personally know him. I'll send you through chat here so you can contact him and just tell him you know me. He'll talk to you.
It will be just great. Thank you about this. I made this with
Intel Capital folks too. I deal with them regularly.
It will
There you
be
go,
great.
Zalto. See,
Yeah.
this is what happens. You talk to
Yeah.
people. This is what happens. What we've said is true. These types of connections really do. So, William, I want to make sure you get a chance, and Zolko, make sure you and Gary connect on the chat while we're continuing. So, William, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Zaglo. Okay, thanks for your presentation. Of course, this is something new to me because yes, I can access Gmail from everywhere. I can access my Office 365, but it's a bit different when you don't have the PC and you try to connect from anywhere, right? I was just thinking whether I should buy a Surface Pro X or the Samsung Pro. They come up with a Samsung with where you can. There's a new Samsung. I can't remember the name. Okay, and it's both of them are really pretty, right? So I still want to hold my device. And why I'm looking at them, because we can put a SIM card inside both devices, so I can get connected anywhere. Okay, but let's say if I don't have a PC with me, so I have to find a screen anywhere, right? I still have to find a screen, right? Because I need to look at what's there. Then the next thing I know, where's my keyboard? Do I need to bring my keyboard together with me, right? So I'm not too sure about how practical it is. But when you mention YouTube, when you mention about gaming, yes, because 25 years ago or 20 years ago, I go to cyber cafe and I play games in cyber cafe, right? It's not my PC because everybody goes to the internet cafe and play games among each other, right? That is good, right? But for business, I'm not too sure whether it will work. But of course, this is interesting to know how it will go, because nobody understand how does Microsoft Office 365 works until it actually use it, right? So now I can access my Office anywhere with any device, right? All right, thanks.
Yep. Thank you very much. So, and with Rouster, you can not need the device anymore. As soon as you can find a monitor, a keyboard, and a mouse. This is the idea. Not bringing a computer with you at all, and not paying for it in the beginning. Yeah.
And Zolko, with that, we like to do this for every startup that comes on here. Is give you 30 seconds to give a quick shout out to the audience about the company, that last 1 second or few second pitch, and then also where they can find both you and the company as well. And again, to our audience, I'll put the address in the show notes. So don't worry if you have not a chance to write it down. So Zolko, I don't want to take your time, but you got 30 seconds on the clock. Go ahead, and then we're going to come back to us investors. Get ready for the second half of the show. Go ahead, buddy.
Okay, thank you. So what I could say is that you can visit our website, which is www.rouster.eu. And just find a little bit more information about the product. I will leave my contacts here because I believe that it will be great if you just stay in touch. And hope to have any new chances to continue this conversation. I really believe in Roadshow, and according to all the numbers, it is supposed to be really successful product. So let's see what will happen. This is what I can say.
Wonderful. And Zalko, thank you again for coming on again, taking the stage. Virtual, physical, doesn't matter. It takes a lot to share what you've built and what you've poured your passion into, and we do greatly appreciate it. Hopefully this is inspiring to other founders out there as well, that guess what? You can do it just as Zalko did. It doesn't matter if it's virtual or physical in person. Get out there and share what you've been building, share your vision with investors, take feedback as it comes. Listen to what's said, process it, figure out what's valid for you and what may not be. Not everything that we said is perfect for you or may be relevant, but nonetheless, listen to it, figure out how to adjust, follow up with us. It's good to see those types of things grow and heal. And Zalko, there's some messages for you in the chat. Make sure you get a chance to jump in there as well. Investors, second half of the show, lightning round. We got 2 or 3 questions before we wrap for today. I want to make sure everyone gets to enjoy their Friday. Poor Williams on the other side of the world, he wants to get to bed, but nonetheless, here we go. Industries. We've talked again a lot this week about a lot of things happening on Industrial 4.0, deep tech, and the entertainment and gaming space along with esports. But let's talk big picture. What are you seeing as those attractive or unsuspected industries that are really going to see some funding or opportunities for funding in this second half of the year as well? So William, let's start with you.
Okay, I just mentioned just now that I attended an event yesterday, and they actually created a grant up to $500,000 US. And the first slide the first sector that the first area that they mentioned is actually deep tech. Okay, and why they want to give out this grant now is because they've seen that a lot of Malaysian entrepreneurs basically they don't spend much time on R&D or create new stuff. They basically copy someone's idea or copy. It's a me too stuff. Okay, so why they created this specific grant is to encourage entrepreneurs to think more into technology and how to use technology. Okay, so what they mentioned is AI, of course, blockchain. Okay, the new areas, a new wave. All right, and of course, a lot of existing technology, how to further innovate from them. So it doesn't need to be a new tech, but how do you differentiate yourself from the existing tech and improve human lives? I think the key word here now is because of this pandemic, everybody will be focusing on how to make human life more comfortable. Okay, not just from the healthcare perspective, but also from lifestyle, also from the day-to-day use of technology, of course. And of course, if you look at the way people deploy capital, okay, how to improve them. Okay, so one of the company that we are advising now is in fintech. They want to make investment accessible to everybody. Okay, so therefore they have created a robo-advisor, okay, which can be accessible by anyone. As low as $100 US, you can start investing. Okay, so there's a lot of new technology coming out from here. So I'm not really a deep tech guy, but from our perspective, it's always where the market is and what does the market needs for the 3 to 5 years time.
It's a good perspective, and there's a lot more to unpack there, but I think that's a good starting point. And Gary, I mean, we've talked this subject so much this week, but I know you're seeing other areas as well. And it goes without saying that, you know, artificial intelligence and Irina, I'm going to come to you with blockchain in a minute, but those two technologies are powerful piping. They're powerful infrastructure, and they're powerful picks and shovels around the future of things, not just for the second half of the year, but the next decade ahead. Outside of AI, or if you want to dive deeper into it, what else are you seeing as industries of unknown interest right now coming in the second half of the year?
I mean, the situation is we have this pandemic, and so anything around, you know, biomedical research around finding the vaccine for COVID, security, facial recognition, thermal detection. So if somebody comes into a Walmart, do they have the right temperature? Are we going to have a problem with a COVID? So I think we have immediate, acute needs over the next 6 months. But from my standpoint, as you know, Kyle, I'm bullish on artificial intelligence, wherever that is. So what we talked about today is very compelling. That is we've in a new realm, an entirely new world order. And now in this virtual digitally transformed world, anything that can bring us closer together, technologies like VR and AR that can make these meetings we have better so we feel more in person without all the risk are really, really interesting and critical. So I think that loop needs to tighten up, and those are some, immediate opportunities that we can look at.
Absolutely. The digitization of everything, of industries, of products, of services, of ourselves. We're coming back to that next week. Nonetheless, I think there's a lot happening, and the digitize of ourselves, just to tease something, if you haven't looked at, check out Samsung's announcement and plans around 6G. Yes, not 5G, 6G. And the fact that they see this as that next level of connectivity, they're already skipping over 5G and looking towards 6G, and the idea that holographic technology and us and our presence where we are in the world and how we engage and interact, to Gary's point, will be leveraged through 6G. And we're going to see a whole new wave of that come a lot sooner than later. Just a little tease. Irina, to you, what else are you seeing? Whether that be space, the industry we both share a love for being blockchain and digital currencies, what else are you seeing out there as areas of focus?
Well, of course, the blockchain is, on everybody's mind, and it will continue to improve our lives in a way that most of people are not going to realize. They just will know that all of a sudden things are more accessible and available for them. So blockchain, of course, space industry. But I also would like to mention kind of a local, right? So as we're becoming more digital, what I'm seeing more is a local micro-sustainable farming. So that is becoming extremely popular. Kind of a ability to have your locally produced food and produced through sustainable farming and gardening is getting a lot of traction from investors, from entrepreneurs. We're seeing micro little cities almost built, right? So as we are seeing further push away from connectivity, a lot of people are investing money in land and building micro neighborhoods, if you would, that are designed for people to be able to have a way to, have a place to live, a place to travel. For example, some of the most interesting things that I'm seeing right now, besides, of course, the, financial technology and space, but kind of on the other aspect that I think brings a lot of balance to it, is a network of people that are investing in land and building kind of a hybrid of farming / spaces for gathering, to where nomads can kind of travel from one community to another community and be able to to continue working, to continue seeing each other. And I think that that's, in the last couple of months, that's gathered a lot of traction. And in Texas, the land is going. I mean, as the exodus from a lot of big cities happening, a lot of people are moving to Texas and they're buying the land and they're building the sustainable micro communities, to where they say, okay, on 100 acres, I can feed 500 families a year, and I can house 100 people, 100 families on that land, and still be able to provide them the food and then feed another 400 suplas. So I think that's something to keep an eye open and understand kind of how that will impact the way we travel and do things, and also how our health is influenced by that.
Absolutely. And one more question before closing thoughts, everybody, is
Can
we
I say
talked.
one thing? Can I say one
Absolutely. Go ahead. Yeah,
Yeah, I
absolutely.
mean, it's really interesting. So there's another opportunity here. I just read a statistic yesterday that construction starts are up, even in the pandemic. And part of the reason is what Irina alluded to, because people are moving from these densely populated, very expensive locations like San Francisco to other locations where quality of life is better. I think there's been a shift, a mental shift, where people understand that, hey, I can work anywhere now. It doesn't really matter. Of course, it's great to be in Silicon Valley because of connections, but not everybody has to be there, right? So I think the quality of life goes up. Now that's an opportunity for construction tech, for other kinds of technology to be able to make sure that the communications are properly installed and the designs of the houses are right and everything's, you know, if we're going to do a mini farmette or whatever for sustainability, it's really interesting. But it's happening. I mean, the housing starts are up.
Absolutely. And that's been a big trend over this year, to your point as well. I mean, it's been covered in many media and press around home purchases to land developments, construction tech to insurance tech, the whole process in between as well, about buying a home to selling a home to, you know, re-renting, whether that be what we've seen in the past or some new applications as well. So to Gary's point, it's definitely another industry. So guys, last question as we get to closing thoughts here is advice. There is going to be a lot of uphill battles and a lot of struggles coming in this last half of the year. We've talked a little bit about it, but I'd love to hear maybe one or two pieces of advice from each of you to our founders as we close up here that may be going through some of these uphill battles and going through these struggles in the next 5 or 6 months, and what they should be knowing and remembering as they do this and have prepared. So William, let's start with you and we'll come around and then we'll do closing thoughts and sign off.
Yeah, I think the takeaway today for every entrepreneur is to show up, whether it's virtual or with a live event, because I show up today, and what happened for the last 2 minutes just inspired me, because Irina mentioned about construction store in Texas, and Gary mentioned about quality of life. Because today, as I was driving past a piece of land, probably around 100 kilometers off KL, Kuala Lumpur, the capital city of Malaysia, I was actually asked to look at a piece of 100 acres land around that area. And I was thinking, who the hell will move to that area? And now both of you just give me an idea. Yes, I should focus on quality of life, get away from the bustling of the KL's pollution and the traffic jam, okay, because it took me 1.5 hours to enter 20 kilometers from my house, okay. And yeah, this opened up for me and give me a different perspective. How should I promote, or how should I bring people to move there 100 kilometers away from KL into a new life, okay, where you can do business, okay, without being in the city. Yeah. Probably I have some thoughts now. Thank you very much.
That's good. There you go. We get on Zoom, 2 minutes time, 120 seconds. William, totally changed mindset.
Yeah.
Point is, get online, connect with people. All right, Gary, to you.
Yeah. So what was the question again, Kyle? It was so enthralled in that.
Yeah, I mean, William, you both inspired William. He's a changed man. He's excited.
Yeah.
He's fired up.
So one or two comments. So
exactly.
I mean, the thing is, you know, and I'm a very optimistic person. My entire life, I've been optimistic, and the glass is half full, not half empty. So if you start to go in emotional spirals, thinking negative stuff, that's what happened. If you think positive things start to happen. I've had it, you know, I did a few years ago, the market was just dying. We took a company from Israel and brought it to the United States. People say we couldn't do an IPO, and we did it. And that company was a company that was sold in August of last year for $1.35 billion. So I can tell you, I've been through it many, many times. If you stay positive and look for that silver lining, good things do happen. And that's part of building a team too. You want to think of the positive, realistically positive, but positive. That's door number one. The other thing is get revenue. revenue producing companies make investors like myself and Irina and Bill eyes open up, and Kyle open up, because it shows that you can do it. So everything else is speculation until people start to pull money out of their pocket and start to pay for it. So get revenue. So look for the opportunities, just like we talked about today. There's opportunities that are happening very, very quickly. And this is in the beginning. Whenever there's a shift and there's chaos, people don't really think logically. But if you look out of the box, you can find opportunities in the silver lining in these clouds. Look for the silver lining.
Absolutely. Yeah. Irina, any piece of advice that you have to add?
Yes, I agree with that. I think that as everybody loses their mind, this is a really great opportunity to think straight, to tighten up, and to make sure too that if you're fundraising, that you have all the basics set. Okay, you want to make sure that your pitch deck, your answers answer basic questions, right? What is your team? What is your traction? How much experience you have? And then I think what's important too is that it makes sense to where, how much you have raised before kind of matches to the next step to how much you're raising now, because the big gaps are red flags. So learn what those red flags are and don't have them, because as long as you don't have your big red flags, you're already going to have the open conversation with investors, and they'll handle one red flag as long as you have a good answer for it. But if it's just all over the place, it's, it means that you're lost in a chaos and you just don't understand what is happening. And like Gary said, stay positive. Allow yourself to think positively. It's okay. Sometimes through the troubles is when we find ourselves. And if you have to let go half of your staff and cut everybody's pay, and you're struggling, it's all right. Be transparent with your investors, though. Don't hide that vulnerability. Just remember that your grit is very, very important. So show your vulnerability. It's okay to, you don't have to raise a lot of money at once. You can think at this time in terms of 3 to 6 months. It's all right, because we don't know what is going to happen in 3 to 6 months. And everybody finally realizes that. And I think that that's for investors, for entrepreneurs, and for investors, again, be transparent. If you're not deploying right now, let the companies know that you are not deploying right now. Have them come back to you later. They will. Just don't lead them on, because I think that it breaks a lot of spirit of entrepreneurs when they spend countless hours and then realize that it was just a wild chase goose and there's nothing to deploy right now for that fund. And it happens. That's the reality. So don't do that. Don't block those people that are actually deploying. Just pass it along and know that it's okay. That opportunity will come back to you later. Don't lead them on, because you break their spirit just a little bit. And we do not need broken spirit entrepreneurs. We need them to be shining, believing in the good things. And, everybody just keep on doing a good job.
Absolutely. And with that, thank you all very much. I want to make sure you get a quick closing thoughts, super quick, as we're at the top of the hour to wrap up here. So quick closing thoughts, and where can everyone find you online? As we know, there's going to be a few people reaching out wanting to share their stories with us and connect as well. So Irina, you were last to go there. I want to come back to you first. Quick, any additional quick closing thoughts, and then where can everyone find you online?
Well, I think that's all. Just stay tuned. And what I found important is that there are a lot of active investors here on VCTV. So go back and watch previous episodes, because we have a very diverse variety of people here, and a lot of them are deploying. So reach out to them, and we all are here. Come on, reach out. That's the one common thing that keeps happening. And so watch them, listen what they're saying, adjust your pitch deck, adjust your mindset to fit what is currently needed in the market and what investors are willing to deploy in, pivot. And you can find me anywhere. You can just Google either Irina Lichfeld on just Google, and it will give you a million links, or just Crypto Superwoman. I'm super responsive, and yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm looking forward to your upcoming keynotes as well. I know we're going to be unpacking a little bit of space and going back to the stars and well beyond that. So stay tuned. A shameless plug, but a very awesome one nonetheless. And thank you, Irina. Gary, to you, where can everyone find you? Any quick closing thoughts that you have as well?
So you can get me at gary@gsdvs.com. You can get me on LinkedIn, Gary Fowler. I'm happy to connect with you. GSD is looking for incredible AI companies. And we really want to create those next billion-dollar unicorns. And we've done it before. So connect with us. Thank you.
Absolutely. And also check out Gary, another shameless plug because it's Friday, why not? Check out Gary online as well at both Forbes and on Medium. He's doing a ton of writing right now around artificial intelligence. And the latest articles he just put out, I will plug for him because they're that good. That will blow your mind at what's happening in the artificial intelligence space and how it's crossing over as well. So two shameless plugs. I got 3 for 3. So William, go ahead and give your closing thoughts, and where can everyone find you online as well?
I think to all the entrepreneurs, just keep trying, just keep moving forward, don't give up. And you can get me on LinkedIn at William Du. Okay, yeah.
Perfect. Building anything in Asia, or you want to inspire an investor, William's your man. Reach out to him, all right? There you go. Zolko, I'm doing something untraditional here. Give everyone a quick shout out again. Where can they find you online? What's your web address?
Yep, it is rouster.eu. This is the web address, and I'm also sharing here my LinkedIn profile, the link in the chat, the link to the website and my email address.
Perfect. There you go. So everyone, you just heard for the past hour and 20 minutes, everything that's in our mind today, what we see happening currently, what we see going into the second half of this year, a very important time for you as founders and also for you as investors, from opportunities to raising capital. You've got the advice, you've got the knowledge, take it, what you need, and move forward and start executing, all right? We're all available 24/7 on all forms of social media. As we said, we'd love to hear from you. Startups, if you want to join the likes of Zolto and actually get online and have a chance to pitch us, and as Irina said, all of us as active investors here at VCTV, reach out. I'd love to hear from you. So would the entire LATOKEN team. We'd love to have you on here, or share your insights on what you see happening and things that you've learned as well. Investors, you want to unpack your mind, you want to share your thoughts, you want to get access to some great opportunities and friends and new family members as we have here today, reach out. We'd love to have you here on VCTV. Audience, again, thank you so much for joining. If you like what you heard, click subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. To our investors, thank you so much for joining today. William, get some rest, my man. You've driven too much today. You deserve to go to bed early, even though it's super late. Irina, Gary, it's great. I'll talk to you later today. Zolko, enjoy your day as well. Everyone else, thank you so much. Maria, entire LATOKEN team, thank you very much for bringing VCTV to your screen everywhere in the world. I'm Kyle Ellicott, your host. We'll be back here on Monday with a full week of all new episodes of VCTV. Reach out to me on any social media. I'm available, LinkedIn, Twitter. Love to hear from you. Everyone have a great day. Enjoy the weekend. Bye.